How often do you see rich oriental carpets decorating a medieval Gothic church? Look, they are the joy for the eyes, bringing color, warmth, and the foreign aesthetics in this cold stone environment. Well, I'm used to it. It happens in Brașov, south of Transylvania, where I travel often. Each time I have to travel up north, crossing the Carpathian Mountains, I must take an extra jacket. Transylvania has indeed a different landscape, climate, music, and even the same dishes taste different than in the south. The Romanian aesthetics in the southern slopes of the Carpathians are rich in heavy embroidery with big geometry patterns full of metallic thread in contrast with dark shades, usually black. In Transylvania, the story is different. We see shirts using excess of fabric and tiny, delicate embroidery placed on clear lines. The south of Transylvania was influenced by more recent settlers, the Saxons. They came from the territory of Luxembourg, starting with the 12th century. Their mission was to contribute to the defense against attacks from the Tatars and the Mongols. They were offered land and they formed villages, but also 7 fortified cities. So they named the place Siebenbürgen. But don't imagine that our mountains were a barrier in terms of culture, language, music, and trade. Quite the opposite. There was intensive exchange. Prahova Valley, Old Valley, Jiu Valley are routes shaped by great rivers, and we still use these roads today. Brașov thrived as Hermannstadt, the name documented in 1366. It was and still is a spicy mosaic of architecture, flavors, and colors surrounded by mountains. It has many visitors, people, and bears from time to time. It was a hub for trade and crafts, so you could find goodies like silk, lemons, coffee, cinnamon, and many other spices and textiles from the Ottoman Empire. And these goodies were also traveling farther north and west to go to the Central Europe. This trade brought wealth, and of course greed followed. All sorts of frictions appeared regarding custom taxes, and this is how a legend was written down. The merchants from Brașov wrote a letter and spread rumors throughout Central Europe that Vlad Țepeș, Vlad the Impaler, known as Dracula, is too cruel even for medieval standards. He was educated in the art of war at the Ottoman court. Actually, he might have learned alongside his future rival. This was Mehmed the Conqueror, Fatih Sultan Mehmed in Turkish. Mehmed II was the Ottoman Sultan who famously conquered Constantinople in 1453, transforming the Byzantine capital into Istanbul. He later launched campaigns in Wallachia, south of Romania, where he clashed with Vlad Dracula. In 1460s, their conflict peaked in 1462 when Vlad led a brutal resistance against the Ottomans, including the infamous night attack at Târgoviște, where he ambushed the Sultan's army. Now imagine, what if Vlad would have had a larger army, or support from Western Europe, or even Hungary? He might have liberated Constantinople. Take a moment and meditate about that. We often see movies depicting battles, wars, intrigues, and violence, because these are events that shape history suddenly. But the Ottoman Empire had soft power as well, imposing cultural products and lifestyle in the Balkans and farther. We all drink coffee now, right? We all love Oriental carpets, right? What happened in peaceful times? There was trade and exchange in fashion, music, habits, and cuisine. Well, except for religion. No way. No mosques here. And no Turkish rulers. No pashas. This part of history is not often written in chronicles, but it's still on our tongue, as part of our vocabulary. Many of the words we use, and Italians, for instance, find unfamiliar, have in fact not Slavic, but Turkish origin. Most of them are nouns and are related to textiles as well. Although never truly part of the Ottoman Empire, which was a multi-ethnic empire, Romanian principalities were under control and a lot of influence. Romania gained total independence only in 1877, and it was recognized in international treaties in 1878. Despite importing so many luxury goodies from the Ottomans, our women kept their total independence when it came to lifestyle and fashion. Our shirts and our dresses kept the European DNA from this region, and the principles continued from the ancient times. The East Roman Empire and Greek influence echoes in our attire, encoded in fabric, cutting patterns, and embroidered symbols. And let's see when and how we use 4 threads of silk in order to add volume and consistency to our shapes. We created the pattern, we defined it with finer lines, but in order to create more effect, we use a thicker yarn now. I squeezed 2 yarns and I knot them together, so we're going to have 4 yarns here. It's easier to see now, please trust me, there are 4. And we're going to work after the path is already defined, because now with this very fluffy, very thick yarn, it's going to be difficult to follow the threads from the fabric in order to count them. So it's better if we follow a defined path, and we're going to create only vertical lines with the opposite finger. We hold the thread until we are almost ready to let go. There's no rush now. It's not the moment to be efficient, because now we are adding extra is the cherry on top, let's say. So I'll try to zoom. For you to see properly. I already see the path. It was defined by the horizontal lines, and now I make sure all the threads are going as much as possible lined, and I have this raised embroidery here. You see, it's not easy to count the threads, that's why I saved this as the last step. I'll do it again. Normally I was supposed to rotate the fabric and return from here to here, but want to make sure it's best for you to see. I move the needle. I don't rush. Make sure all the threads are in order, and then I move to the next step. And the embroidery is quite dense already. I hold the thread, and when I'm sure everything is equal, I let go. In the south of Romania, women used to love this raised embroidery. They wanted to have their patterns almost impossible to copy. So if you are using fine lines, anybody can easily copy your pattern. But if you are using such a thick yarn, it's almost impossible. You can barely fit it on the fabric. And we're going to see it working on vertical now. I hold it, all is fine, I let go. I hold it, it's fine, I let go. I don't pull too much, I leave it quite relaxed. After washing, the fabric will shrink, nothing wrong is going to happen with this. It's all fine, it has a slight twist. Everything is fine, you see the slight twist. This again contributes to adding volume. And now I move to finishing the petal. When I work, I don't do it as slow as now, but I want to make sure you see in detail all the smaller steps required. You see in this twist, and if I don't like the way it fell on the fabric, I can pull it with a needle a little bit and adjust it. And maybe you are wondering why this bud, this flower, has to be so rich. I think this is a subject for the next chapter. It's a beautiful story about what this bud represents and why is it important in the south of the country and why it's still relevant for Romania today. Look, if I make a mistake and things go wrong, I can always pull the thread a little bit up and adjust it. See? It's best to control it, but even if you don't control it perfectly, you can always pull the threads a little bit, hold them better, give them another chance to settle properly. And now this beautiful bud is done. It has volume. Let's just wait for the sparkle. I hope you like it. I hope gives you courage to try on your own with raised embroidery. It's nothing really so complicated, and after a bit of practice everything will be just fine. Remember, everything you do on the fabric you can undo either by removing the thread. If it recently happened, you just undo quickly, like on your computer. Or if you discover a mistake that you've created way back in time, you can use the scissor and save as after you correct it. This exact technique doesn't have a name in Romania. We call it fat stitch, but it can be found with names like Romanesque, Romanian points, because you can either use 4 threads like I do, or you can insist and return on the same path with 2 threads again and again, and you might obtain a similar effect. I'm going to show you very soon. So this is the last stage of the silk embroidery, the raised embroidery. Because after you do this, you can barely see the fabric. You can't count anything, you barely see the fabric. Romanian embroidery is supposed to cover the fabric as much as possible. Okay, and I'm going to show you how it can be done in a different way as soon as I fix the thread on the back. If you are a beginner and you find it difficult to work with so many threads in the same time, you can try this way. We will do the verticals. And we will go twice. Let's see. So I will make one vertical line, but I will not go farther, not until I make another one. It's important that we have great volume, and maybe you find it easier this way, even if it takes longer. Maybe you feel more confident to try it like this. And again, I would normally rotate the fabric. It's not the case. Let's do a on the other petal just for you to see. So now I will make one horizontal line with 2. I will repeat it to get the high volume, and so I still have 4 yards of silk in the same direction, but from 2 stitches. So instead of going this way, I return for another horizontal line. In the end, when the shirt is ready, nobody is going to know which method you used. So if you feel more comfortable to do it like this, from double steps, just do it. You barely see where to to push a needle. That's the point. Romanian embroidery has to be rich and raised, mysterious. From the pattern to the symbol, everything is mystery. So now you see the both ways to do this raised embroidery. I hope you will try, maybe you try this one first, and then maybe in time you'll feel ready to try this other method, which somehow I prefer. It's faster and not so organized. It's more nature, more organic. Hello again, Semne Cusute. I'm here after my third week working on this Blouse shirt, explaining the story and the steps for the Needlework Chronicles. And it was a productive week. I am pleased. This time I am quite pleased. I had a trip to Brașov, which is 2.5 hours by train. So in a total of 5 hours I was able to finish both pieces for Altița. And so I started to work on the petals to bring volume and texture. This is the raised embroidery. It requires patience, but you can divide your attention and watch a movie in the same time, or at least listen to a movie, and if you think it's something interesting, you can quickly look into the screen. I know that when I will wash the shirt, the fabric will shrink a bit despite the big quantity of silk, and it will be less visible. The fabric will be less visible. So I don't insist to cover all of it just now. It's not easy to do this embroidery. You need strong fingers to pull the needle through so many threads. There are already layers of threads here, and you have to struggle a little bit sometimes to push the needle through the fabric, and it's difficult to pull it back. I can't say I'd recommend this for beginners unless they have a strong motivation. And test first, practice first. Luckily, traditional Romanian embroidery required for such a shirt, it's very portable, on the go. You can make it anywhere. You can work on a train, on the sofa. You need good light, yes, but apart from that, you don't necessarily need a table, you don't need a frame. You can create, if you need to hold the fabric tight, you can create a frame with your fingers. This is what my grandma showed me when I was a child, and it's the method I'm still using. Because I feel it's such a pity to stress this fluffy embroidery, raised embroidery, and to stress it with frame. Also, it's important not to iron it. You don't press the iron against the embroidery, you just need to iron the fabric Sunny days will be here soon, and I'll be able to show you how the silk reflects the light in a beautiful way. I estimate that I'm going to need 2 or 3 more weeks to finish the altizza, including the metallic thread, and the chest, for which I didn't make progress. It's just here with a test. But again, Romanian shirt is not a sprint. It's a beautiful marathon where you don't die in the end, but wear a beautiful shirt.